Hey, Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jason. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
My name is Melany Robinson. You find me today at my office in Portland, Maine, this spec year. I am a founder of an agency called Sprout House that we're founded in 2012. Actually, we were Polished Pig Media at the time, and had to rebrand in 2016. But I'm an agency owner with a team of almost 30 people with a earned, owned, and paid integrated communications agency that really is centered around all things hospitality and hospitality adjacent: real estate, lifestyle, restaurants, CPG brands, and then beverage.
Man, I bet you guys loved COVID then.
COVID was great. There's nothing like 70% of your revenue walking out the door overnight.
Yes,
That
yeah,
gives you a wake up call.
exactly. Well, we'll
Yeah.
get to that, but how did you guys get started, starting your agency?
When my dad told me when I was 16 years old that I could sell crack cocaine to a rehab specialist, I realized I had an affinity for selling. But I kind of parked that. I got a degree in biomedical photography from Rochester Institute of Technology because I've always had this juxtaposition of art and science. And I love the creative me ideating, and then I love the strategic thinking of a scientist. And so I got an undergraduate degree in biomedical photography. I went on to work in that in Chicago. And at one point, my friend Catherine Gurley said to me, Melanie, you should be in PR. I'm like, what the hell is PR? I don't even know. And I informational interviewed with a good human and an amazing agency founder, Mary Wagstaff, and I marched over to her business at the time and said, "Hi, I'm here to learn about PR." And the rest is history. I went to work for Mary, worked with Mary for almost 8 years, and then in 2012 went out on my own and formed Polish Pig, which is now Sprout House.
Yeah, what made you do it on your own?
A non-compete. And the reality is, I had a lot of colleagues in California where non-competes really weren't worth the paper that they're on. And I was in Virginia and they were highly enforceable. And it just was not something at my age and stage of career that I wanted to be limited by. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, for multi-generational entrepreneurs, my grandparents, my parents. So I think I knew starting a business was in my DNA. And really, I think what it did is that it pushed me out of the nest. It was like, okay, Melanie, you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're doing, but let's just do it. And that's what happened.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
why a couple years gone by, and why did you guys rebrand?
I was sitting at a conference table in New Orleans, Louisiana, working on a crisis communications case, which we work a lot on. And I had a group of attorneys look at me across the table and say, "So you're telling me that we just hired a pig to represent our alleged pig, and you're going to put lipstick on this pig?" And I was like, gosh, that's a really good point. Maybe I didn't think this through. So that was the moment that really flipped the switch. But I also realized that big city clients were not taking the pig seriously. It was Southern and cute. Southern, which I am for sure.
No,
And I
I mean, you're
realized
not
that my
originally
business,
from Maine. I couldn't tell.
no, no, you can't. No, I'm a proud Southerner, but now happily a Mainer. And so I realized, this name, which was very personal to me, was something that I was going to outgrow. And so we went through the painful process of renaming, rebranding without losing our brand equity. And now people don't even know what Polish Pig is. So I'm really glad of that.
Well, it's funny how certain names. I remember there was uh, a restaurant I used to go to, Quiznos Subs, and
Sure.
their mascot was a rat. And then I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, like a restaurant, a
Terrible.
food place with a rat, or you think about Chuck E.
Right.
Cheese with a mouse.
Not what you want to think about. No,
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 but but
no.
yeah. But then I go back and I think of those the type of quality food. I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Right. It aligns. It's on brand, as they
That's right.
say.
It's exactly that's why they haven't changed it. So, but cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, you've been doing it for a while now. What's been the biggest surprise that's happened to the agency that caught you maybe not off guard, or I mean, could be off guard, or it could be, like, man, I had no idea this would actually happen.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, I mean, it's obvious, but it's COVID. I mean, the reality is when you open a business without a strategy and you're fortunate enough to really be generating a profit month over month, every single month for the tenure of your business, and then you wake up one day and that all goes away. I really took business for granted. I thought if you operate with integrity and you work hard and you exceed client expectations, it's only going to build and grow. What COVID taught me is you can't ever take that for granted. It's never a given. And I think some of the most important lessons I learned, I mean, COVID was a great thing for me. I mean, it taught me you can't afford to keep C players on the team like that you can't carry costs that are just nice.
Let's
You have,
let's talk about the C players.
yeah, okay, let's talk
I'm
about
glad
them.
I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously, not their names, but
Of course.
yeah, Joe Blow, you were a C player. Congrats. But before COVID, because obviously COVID happened, you lose 70% of your business. Obviously, the first thing a lot of people look at is cutting expenses. Is that what made
Mhm.
you kind of evaluate the team and put like a grade on them? Be like, who do we really need? Who do we not? Like, how did you look at that?
Well, I mean, how we handled COVID is differently from the lesson I learned about C players coming out of COVID. I mean, how we handled COVID was first off, we told all of our clients we are negating all contracts. If you need out, you have out. Because I actually have a sign right back there. It says business goes and business stays. We're treated well. And that's something that my grandfather said in building a successful insurance business in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And so I thought about that mantra, and that's why my parents gave me a plaque that I keep on my desk. That if I treated all of these struggling F&B outlets and hotels with kindness and let them out of their agreements without any issue, they would come back. Um, and then I realized I had a 70% drop in revenue overnight. I was like, okay, well, we've got to get cost commensurate with revenue, as you do as an agency owner. And I took it to the team. It was a team decision and it was a team discussion. Do we want to lay people off? Do we all want to reduce our compensation? What do we want to do? And we made that decision together. And we basically all, we started off with a 30% reduction, then a 40% reduction. And basically, what we did as a group, we reduced our compensation to make it work. People left, they found jobs, it all kind of worked out in the end. But through that process and that experience, what I learned is this balance as an agency owner of managing revenue and expense, which is as a service business, obviously people are the majority of your expense. Um, it's just a constant juggle. And who you want to keep are the people that really want to be there. And you can't afford to keep the C players for the down months or the down moments. You just can't afford it. And we just finished our State of the Union. We call it the State of the House. We actually had it this past Monday, and our theme this year was "Boys in the Boat," the movie, the book, and everyone watched Boys in the Boat and submitted who they identified with on the boat, what character and why, and what does it take to be a successful team, to move a boat, to win a race, to be an Olympic champion when you had no rowing experience. And as a collegiate rower, this was, I identified with this movie immensely. But what that movie and our discussion was around on Monday was how to be in sync and be a team that rows together and wins. You've got to all have the same selfless desire to do whatever it takes for your team. C players don't do that. They
They're
they
out for
don't.
themselves.
They're out for themselves. They don't realize that their seat in the boat is one of 8 or 9 with a cox, and that they're worried about their seat and their job, not everybody else's. And the older I get, the more I realize those people are hard to come by. But they're worth testing the waters with different people to find the people that are supposed to be in your boat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in the very beginning and for many years when you're hiring people, you're like, oh my God, like someone actually wants to work for us. Like, and you're like hiring
Me, they
anybody.
want to work. Anybody. You're like, me? They want to work with me? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and then when you start getting burned left and right, you start identifying some patterns. And the patterns that I learned after that was they have to, would I go on a road trip? And then I started thinking like after the road trip, I'm like, well, what makes certain people I want to go on a road trip? Well, they believe in similar things I do. They're not identical to me, but they have similar beliefs. And that was the whole makeup of everything from when I started hiring the right people and then bringing the right people into the agency mastermind too, right? Like because in
Yeah.
the very beginning when we started doing this business and building a community, we were letting anybody in. We're like, you want in? You're like, oh, they really want in? Like, and
Yeah.
then we started with like, man, there's some people that are just kind of assholes or they're
Yeah.
takers or
Right.
right,
Yeah.
they're just in it for themselves versus like
Right.
I'm going to show up for everyone else, and that's what
Yes.
keeps them around versus just what you pay them or that's part of it, but that's a small part for the right people.
I could not agree more. I think, I want people on my team that want to get up and do this day over day, not just for themselves, but for everyone else. And I said this on to the team on Monday in our State of the Union, State of the House. I said, my hope is that when you leave Sprout House, and this is a stop on your professional journey, that there's a piece of this business and my leadership that makes you better. And I said, and often the most important coaches in my life, I don't really appreciate what they brought to me until much later in life. I had a conversation just this morning with an employee that resigned 6 months ago, and we had the best conversation. And we were her first job out of school, and we just have such mutual respect for each other. And we were talking about our new opportunity, and I said, you have to look at each job as building a tool in your toolkit to whatever your ultimate outcome is. And that's my hope as a leader, is that people get something from time with me that makes them better.
Well, it's we don't really appreciate. I mean, I always look back at I didn't really appreciate all the stuff my parents did
Oh,
until maybe a couple years ago. I'm in my late 40s now, and it's just like, oh man, like I totally get what they were going through and what I did to them.
for real.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel the same. I feel the same way. I mean, my work ethic, my commitment to being kind and making our planet better, and to being a good parent, and all the things that are my values, I hands down give my parents, who not only walked the walk but talked the talk. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and I look at too as managing a team, it's not really managing a team for me. It's more
Mhm,
about, I think, leading a team because all the people, well, and this might be a lot of people listening are the visionaries or the ADD people. That's kind of how
mhm.
I am. Or like, we were forced to do something and we figured it out, and but we realize I don't want to manage anybody. Like, because if I
Mm-mm.
manage them the way with my work ethic, right, of how fast I go, and like if I need to get something done, I'm going to do it until it's actually done. And I can't
Yeah.
put that on someone else, and I can't micromanage them. So I always talk about on the show, I'm a shitty manager, but I hire the people that are good managers of themselves that
Yes.
can just follow, like,
Mhm.
here's my thought, here's my idea, here's where we want to go figure it out.
I tell people all the time, I want to give you the space to make mistakes, the feedback to learn from them, and then the grace to move forward. And that I'm a terrible manager too, Jason. We got a lot in common. I can be all give people, the space, too much space. But to me, that's what a good leader. They motivate, they inspire, they organize. I also think they give clarity and expectation. I need you to do this. I don't care how you do it. It has to be done by this date. And that's my expectation. I used to feel like that was being bossy. But what I've kind of learned, even with my husband, it's like, okay, if you just give me a list of what you need help with, that's not being bossy. That's giving clarity. And so I'm getting my head around that as a leader,
Oh
personally
yeah,
and professionally,
yeah.
for sure.
I want to talk about kind of your all hands meeting because there's a lot of people that kind of skip it. Some people do it. How do you guys do it? Is it an all day thing? Is it a couple days thing?
Okay, can you see those two hanging ornaments back there next to the W, which is from the University of Washington from Boys in the Boat, which is where that team was. Um, those ornaments were stitched by my colleague Collis as thank yous after retreats that we had been on as a company. One of those is from Montana, one is from Mexico. Um, and I point that out because a huge part of this culture since the very beginning is taking time away from the business, someplace it's inspiring, beautiful, um, often really nice, so that we can be together. Because I think when you run an agency, especially like ours, it's almost 30 people all over. I mean, we have people right now that have worked together for 10 or 11 months and have never met each other in person. And that's a real, great teams become great teams because they practice together. They're not shooting hoops in Omaha and shooting hoops in Spokane. They're practicing together. Um, and so retreats, when you run a virtual business, and this business model that I developed was long before COVID and was really helpful in us weathering COVID like we did, because I believe that flexibility and space to work as you wish is important. I also think time in the office together is important too. But what I will say is that gathering is especially important in the kind of business we have. So we have done company retreats. Last year was the first year since I started this company that we did not have a retreat. And it was really hard for me.
Why did you do it?
We had for the first time in business, and we had been in business outside of COVID, which is I put as an outlier. We had a 3-4% down revenue year. And I'm actually pretty proud of that. We worked really hard to manage our costs and to really make it less low than it was. But the reality is we just didn't have the money to take a retreat. And as I told the team on Monday with my plastic red lobster, I said, my hope is that the economics will align and that you all can come to Maine and we can be together and see where we live in the region in which we're now growing the business. Um, But when you do what we do, when you work in the luxury food and beverage space, you can't go on a retreat to Iowa City and stay in a Hampton Inn and everyone leaves inspired and motivated. It just doesn't happen. And so retreats are expensive, and I like to do them right and well, and I have. So fingers crossed for this year. I absolutely believe, as I wear around my neck, that it'll happen. But that gathering together is important in person. But top of the year, every year, um, I gather everyone together really to talk about my word of the year, which 2 years ago was believe, and talk about our goals, our wildly important goal that we've set for the year and the metrics behind that. I kind of recount their thoughts and my thoughts on 2025 and kind of set the tone for moving ahead. And that's how we do that.
Yeah, we do our retreat for our members, and it's really game changing. So we used to have it at my house in Colorado, and
Hmm.
everybody would come out, but they couldn't all stay at the house, and so we'd kind of like bus them in and all that kind of stuff. And finally, we started doing it at like a big ranch we would rent out,
Cool.
and it was always fun because the conversations that happen on the side, right? Like you have planned stuff that you talk about, you mastermind, right? Like maybe you have a speaker come in and that kind of stuff, but you don't want to fill it up with all that
Hmm.
because the connection that you have with people riding a horse or fly fishing or whatever it is outdoors, or like whatever we believe, like obviously I live in Colorado, I'm in the mountains, I want to share that with everybody. Like this year,
Yeah.
in the fall, we're going to British Columbia, and like
Cool.
they have like archery and fly fishing and horseback riding and all this really fun stuff to allow people to connect, to go over their goals for the upcoming year and kind of reflect on what's happened for this year and kind of get everybody in alignment. It's game changing when you do that.
And Jason, this is another thing we're aligned on. Our retreats are nothing but fun. I believe the return on a retreat investment is not strategic talking and thinking and planning. We snowmobiled, we horseback rode, we went to pause up in Montana and in the winter and did things that people were far outside their comfort zones. And then in Mexico, we swam in cenotes, we went to World Heritage sites. We did nothing. We played mahjong by the pool. Because I'm with you. The magic happens when people get to know each other on a real level of fun, for sure.
Exactly. Well, cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Melanie. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
You know, I'm going to tell you about a book that I just read. And I'm a tennis player, and
Me too.
oh, good. Yeah. So I was watching Sabalenka's post US Open press conference, and she talked about a book that had changed her life. And I thought, maybe my tennis game can get more like Sabalenka's if I read this book. And she recommended in this press conference a book called Into the Magic Shop by Dr. James Doty. And he was a neurosurgeon at Stanford. And it's his life story. And all I can say is that it has had impact on me personally and professionally, unlike anything I have ever consumed. And it is all about gratitude, kindness, visioning, quieting your mind, and manifesting what you see and what you desire. So yeah, that's I don't know if I'm going to be in the US Open in 2026. But I can say that book recommendation was really prolific for
Well, I have
me.
another book for you then.
Okay, let's
So
hear it.
it's by Brad Gilbert, and it's
Okay.
Winning Ugly. So
I've read it. Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
yeah, so that's one of
Yeah.
like the only books I've ever read because
Yeah.
I played in college, and I remember
Huh.
reading that, and it's all about like the setup point, right?
Hmm.
People think the most important point is match point, right?
Hmm.
Or game point. No, it's the one before that because then
Yeah.
you think about it, it puts more pressure on your opponent or it puts more pressure on you in order to make that decision. And I've treated that my whole life in business of being like, what's my setup point in order
Yeah.
to get this? Not to maybe win that deal right away, but how does that set me up, right? Whether it be my positioning, my pricing, you know, the, where we want to take the business, whatever it is. Like I'm always constantly looking at it that way, even though that was a tennis book. Whenever anybody, just because of lack of reading for Jason, right?
Yeah.
So I always recommend that book because I think I've written more books than I've read.
Yeah, right. That's cool. Yeah, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
listen to them on tape if it's good enough.
yeah,
Just because I can't, something can't hold my attention because I feel nowadays with books, it's so much fucking fluff
yeah,
that I could have got the gist in 10 minutes. I'm like, just
right.
give me the Cliff Note version.
Just the clip notes. Well, this is a good listen. He reads it. I can't stand when people have somebody like Agassi had somebody else read open. And I'm like, come on, dude, read your own book. Like, I just finished Lindsey Vaughn's book and she did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I wanted to hear you read that
Yeah,
book.
Matthew
But
McConaughey,
anyway,
I heard, read his book, and it was
well, that
probably even better because he just ad libbed.
yeah,
Uh,
you get the inflection and the voice. Well, anyway, so yes, another thing we have in common, tennis, uh, for sure. Thank you for having me. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. And for everyone listening, we have amazing events all year long, different ones. And we have one coming up in Phoenix, Arizona. If you guys go to Elevate My Agency, it's a pretty epic adventure there. Have some amazing speakers, amazing agency owners coming. Everyone that buys a ticket, we interview them to make sure that that room is the best. So make sure you go to elevatemyagency.com. And until next time, have a swank day.